Joe talks about Joe. And now, your host, Joe Slepsky.
Hello, and welcome back to Joe on Joe Extreme. It's me, your host, Joe Slepsky, and we're back this week for the 6th episode of the 2nd season called Sabotage, or I pronounce it Sabotage, in the Sky, with my special guest, listener and new friend of the show. Welcome from Spokane, Washington, Mr. Shane Loggains. Shane, welcome to Joe on Joe Extreme.
Yo, Joe. Thanks for having me on the show, Joe.
Yo, Shane, welcome, and it's my pleasure to have you, my friend. So you're calling in from Spokane. You told me that you're a delivery driver up there. What's going on in Spokane, Washington these days? How is it?
You know, it's been kind of weird. The governor just announced that we have to start wearing masks.
4 months too late?
Well, no, he's been saying we need to wear masks, but now he's like got to make law enforcement actually enforce it. Go, if you get caught not wearing it, it's a misdemeanor.
Sure.
So we're just like, okay, everybody's been wearing it.
Oh, that's good, yeah.
And people have been wearing it while they drive, which is kind of sketchy. You're like, I don't know if you're up to anything good.
You know what? The mask in the driving part, as soon as I get in my car, it comes down. There's no need, there's no need to wear it when you're driving. In fact, it's probably a little distracting when you're driving. But,
yeah.
But listen, we got to do it. We got to do it. And the more we can make it easy for people to do it, the better. And some people need the prodding of a fine. I'm not for government overreach, but I am for stopping a pandemic.
Understandably, yeah. It's like it happened. You're like, what?
Yeah, this has been a completely wild. What we're going to 4 months now? Yeah, we're almost 5 months now. Yeah, absolutely insane. How have you guys been holding up during it?
Thankfully, like me and my fiance, we're considered to be essential workers, so we're allowed to leave the house, and we have 2 young kids in daycare, and we're able to drop them off at daycare. Yeah. We actually got a kind of a scare because one of the teachers at the daycare tested positive for it.
Ooh.
So all the parents had to take the kids who were exposed to this teacher to get tested, but fortunately enough, nobody in our household is positive.
Oh, so that's a blessing. That's great to hear.
Yeah,
that's great to hear. And how old are your kids?
Well, actually, I have 4. I have 2 from previous marriage. They are 7 and almost 5, and my fiance, I have a 4-year-old and almost 2-year-old.
Oh, fantastic! Look at you. And are any of them big G.I. Joe fans yet?
My son, he's starting to get there. My 4-year-old, he just turned 4 back in May, and he was fighting going to sleep one night, and I decided, YouTube popped on actually all the introduction songs from Sunbow to all the way up to Renegades.
Nice.
Which was just a compilation, and he just loved it. Being the proud nerd dad that I am, I collect figures, and I was like, I haven't seen G.I. Joe in a long time, and I found a Fortnite Jonesy figure, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna get that. And my son saw it, and he fell in love with it, and I got him one of the 10 to 12 inch ones, the Titan series, and he just absolutely loves it.
Oh, and you're talking about the game Fortnite.
Yeah, the game Fortnite.
There was a second there. I was like, wait a minute. Is there a G.I. Joe called Fortnite Jones that I'm not aware of? Because if so, that would be amazing.
Yeah, that would be.
That's a crazy name, and I kind of like it now. I want Fortnite Jones to join the Joe team.
Well, sadly, where I'm at is I've checked 3 different Walmarts and different Target, GameStop, and none of the new 6-inch G.I. Joe classified figures are available in this area.
it is scarce, man. It's a long cry from those pictures from mid 80s when the toy, literally the entire aisle would be GI Joe. I've not seen any of them in the wild. A friend of mine's actually the friend of the show, Paul Galliano, found the only thing he saw was the empty cardboard holder, like the store rack that they send to display the display case. That's it, man. I've had to get everything online myself.
Yeah, I got a Duke figure off of Amazon, and I told you about that while we were messaging before the show. And yeah, bottom part of it kind of, I think someone stepped on it.
The box was crushed?
A little bit, yeah. It's a little. It's not as firm as it should be, but I'm like, okay, once I get the big display case that I want to get,
Yeah.
I'm taking it out of the box. I'm gonna proudly show it off.
Nice. So so question on the Amazon thing. Do you remember when you got it shipped to you? Do you remember how it was packaged?
It was in one of the bubble wrap envelopes that they have.
They did the same thing to me, and that's why your box got crushed. I returned Roadblock. I returned him twice, and it was the third one that I got before it was finally palatable. And my Duke also was stepped on, but it was fine. I was able to kind of pop it back in place. I'm not crying over it like having a mint box, but the Roadblock boxes were just absolutely unacceptable.
I bet, yeah. I just saw the Duke figure. I was like, it looks like somebody stepped on a corner of it, but
yeah.
Like I said, once I get a display case, I'm just gonna take it out of the box and put it in there.
Well, you're a delivery guy, so you know about all this stuff. I mean, I imagine what it is for them is when it comes to like the category of toys and things like that, that the damages outweigh the time and materials involved in packing it properly.
Yeah, I guess it's some companies like Amazon, they throw it in the bubble envelopes. Like I've actually delivered a toy to one of my stops, an army surplus store. Guy actually collects Star Wars figures, and he got it from Hasbro, and it's in the actual shipping box.
Mm-hmm.
So depending on where you're getting it from,
because it's coming. Yeah, because it's coming from Hasbro. Yeah, I got this week. I got my listeners. I got my Snake Eyes and my Destro, and they came directly from Hasbro, and the packing on that was phenomenal. It was great. It was in a nice sturdy box. It had air bubble bags in them. It was great, and they arrived in perfect condition, and they look fantastic. Although it's funny, I put a thing up on the Instagram, which is at Joe on Joe Pod on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. My Snake Eyes in the box, so it's not the box itself, but I think it got jostled or something during production. His right leg is kind of turned in at the hip, so it looks like he has to pee. So I have the rare pee action Snake Eyes.
Which version of the Destro do you look? Because I looked up on the classified. I was like, okay, there's normal Destro, and I think you called it Pimp Daddy Destro.
Pimp Daddy Destro, yeah, Pimp Daddy. I've ordered both. I've ordered both of them. This was the regular one. This was the first one. I think the Pimp Daddy one has only really shipped to some very I think it might have shipped overseas, and I don't know that collectors have it in hands yet. Like the most U.S. purchasers, that is.
Yeah, I looked at the Hasbro website myself, and all the figures except for this was a week ago, was Duke and Roadblock were the only ones still available. All the rest were sold out.
Yeah, they're selling out everywhere. As we record this, it was last week that they did the Walmart. I can't call it a retro line, but they're calling it a retro line, but it feels weird because it's not really a retro line. The packaging sort of is, but the figures really aren't. But they announced that Walmart retro line, and that stuff sold out.
I heard about that, and
yeah,
I think I gotta agree that they're calling it retro because of the packaging. Because if you look at the figures, you're like, this doesn't look like Storm Shadow from the '80s.
It's
like modern day Storm Shadow.
Right. I'm people more versed in exactly the editions themselves. I think they're versions of the 25th line, maybe with like a couple, like a fresh head sculpt and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Although I'm not exactly that, but that's what what I saw on Twitter. But the packaging does look cool, but it's not retro, man. Not complaining because it is still more G.I. Joe, and hopefully the volume will be enough to. I'm sorry, wait, I'm getting this confused. The retro stuff, I was able to get off Walmart. Last week was the Operation Beachhead stuff. That was on Target, right?
Think so, yeah.
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm getting all this confused. So let me finish the Walmart thing. I was totally able to get all the stuff I needed off Walmart, actually. The retro stuff I ordered, I love being able to get it at, $12 instead of 20. So that was great.
Mm-hmm.
I'm totally going to get that stuff because I think it does look fun. I wish it was. I really, really was praying for like an O-ring stuff, but I imagine manufacturing the O-ring stuff with modern production would actually be really expensive.
Yeah.
I feel like that's just would be a lot more expensive. So that sucks. Now, on to the stuff I meant to say. Target is the one that sold out super fast. So I'm sorry, listeners, for being confusing there. The Operation, was it Operation Cobra Island or something?
Yeah, Operation Cobra Island. I've seen packages like of people showing off their stuff they found in the wild, and I'm like, I don't have that here. I'm getting jealous.
Yeah. I don't have any expectations to go to find them in the wild, but 30 seconds, they're all sold out on Target. That tells me it's all bots, like ordering bots. They've got apps that scan for in-stock stuff. That tells me that's what it is. And so whatever online merchants do that and mark it up, that's what they're doing, which is a real shame.
Yeah,
it's a real shame.
Real shame. I hate it when they do that. I'm like, come on, just let somebody find it in the wild, have that excitement of the thrill of the hunt and actually finding it.
Yeah. Well, I hope that they see this and maybe can manufacture more of them because that there is a higher demand for it. They look great though. I mean, no complaints about how they look. Beachhead's amazing. The Cobra Trooper's amazing. And what else was there? There was Baroness with a motorcycle.
Oh, nice.
And then was there anything else? The Ostriker. Yes, there was an Ostriker with crankcase, and they look great. Like that Ostriker looked awesome. So kudos to Hasbro on the design side, absolutely. On the production manufacturing side, that's inventory side. That's where we got to do a little work.
Yeah, I'm just thinking it's funny because I've been looking, and I'm like, my favorite G.I. Joe from when I was a kid is almost impossible to find completely, but then again, some people say he's like the most hated Joe, which is Lieutenant Falcon.
Oh no, he's great.
Yeah, I loved his figure as a kid, and my mom would tell me that I had him until he was just a head and torso. All like being such a young kid, I was like, he's got a laser leg or laser arms, or I'd say something like that, just so my folks wouldn't throw away this head and torso.
What were you eating your G.I. Joes?
I was just playing really roughly with them, and being a young kid sometimes not knowing collector's value or anything or sentimental value, I like stretched it out and then the little rubber band between the top and the bottom would snap, and I'd be like, "Oh."
Of course. So Falcon. So what's hard to find about Falcon? Because he came with a knife, right?
He came with a knife, the backpack, and I believe a shotgun.
Shotgun, yeah, and is the knife missing a lot? Because I have my Falcon I've never hunted him down in the wild, so I have my Falcon from when I was a kid. Yeah, I didn't eat my Falcon, Shane.
Yeah, it was I don't know, it's just been really tough. I actually found a Falcon a few years ago with a Nemesis Enforcer. I like to say they were celebrating, it was either the 20th anniversary or the 25th or something like that, and I found it in a 2-pack, and I was like, I'm getting it, I don't care. I'm getting it.
That's great. I've always liked, I mean, he was a jerk in the movie, but that's fun though. You know, like it's fun to have that kind of guy. You know, it's like the Guy Gardner of the Green Lanterns. You know, you have
Yeah,
everyone who's straight and narrow, and you throw the wild card in the mix. That's a hoot.
And I just loved how, yeah, he's a jerk and everything, and he's the wild card. But towards the end, it was the wild card you could rely on. He's the
Oh
wild card that's like, I'm gonna be the hero. I got to step up and actually be
yeah,
the hero.
completely. And his figure was great.
Yeah,
I thought his figure looked awesome. It was like a middle ground between between Flint and Duke. It really was kind of right in the
exactly.
middle.
Yeah, actually, those guys are. It goes Falcon, Duke, and Flint are my three favorite Joes. Snake Eyes is number 4 for me, but I grew up around the military, so all my life I saw guys in uniforms, and I'm like, I never saw a ninja.
Well, that's the point of the ninja. You never see him, Shane.
Yeah.
I mean, they wouldn't be very good if you saw them all the time. Trust me, they were there.
Yeah. Well, they didn't have the ninjas that looked like Snake Eyes.
Oh, that's true. That's true. That's true. Top secret government ninja programs. So what is your what's your history with Extreme, the Extreme generation of G.I. Joe?
I saw one episode, I believe it was like a rerun back in the mid 90s. I don't remember. It was like either 95 or 96. I was visiting my grandmother before we left the country to live in Germany for 4 years, and I saw an episode of it, and I don't really remember any of the details whatsoever. I think they were trying to stop like a sniper or something, or just stop somebody who's trying to take out. I can't really remember because it was so long ago.
Mm-hmm.
And but yeah, I remember watching the episode. I remember seeing the toys on the shelves. I I think I was more like, this doesn't look like the GI Joe I grew up with, and I had a buddy who had one of them, and we're like, we can't really pose these all that well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, they
I think,
definitely weren't that they weren't that posable.
yeah, so I think in that at the time I was like, not really interested in every now and then for the local Spokane Comic Con, the Lilac City Comic Con, what it's called, I'll see them like either open or sometimes on card. And I'm like, you know what? Now I'm older. It's starting to pique my interest a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, and they're not that expensive on card.
Yeah.
It's wild how I've said this before on the show. It's wild how inexpensive you can get these online and in person at shows. Although in person at shows might be a little while.
Well, I don't know. They pushed it back right now. I've been going to the Lilac City Comic Con for the last 7 years now, and it was supposed to happen last month, and now they're pushing it back to October. So I'm hoping to actually be able to take my son to it and see some of the stuff.
Is Spokane, is that nicknamed the Lilac City?
Yep.
Oh wow! And by the way, is it Spokane or Spokane?
Spokane.
Spokane. It is okay. From the Midwest, I think growing up it was always Spokane.
Well,
because
yeah,
I got
like,
that flat Midwestern. So Spokane, got it. Well, I'm excited because today's episode is Sabotage. Sabotage. Do you catch that reference, by the way? Do you know what that is? Sabotage.
Sabotage. Yeah.
Sabotage.
Beastie
Sabotage.
Boys.
No, well, sort of. It's from Captain Kirk from Bill Shatner doing a recording for Star Trek back in the day.
Okay.
They were recording, I think, one of like the audio adventures or cartoons or something, and he's like,
Okay.
We've got to sabotage the computer.
Yeah, it's like speaking of Shatner, I actually met him a few years back, and he was such a sweet guy.
Oh yeah,
So nice.
nice. I'm a fan. I think
Oh, yeah.
I think Star Trek's awesome. And he is a kook on Twitter. Like he lets it fly. He lets it fly, and I appreciate that. Yeah. So Sabotage in the Sky today, which is a nice, fun episode that is very much at home. Would be very much at home in the Sunbow era, guys. It is Mayday and Typhoon.
Harpoon.
Typhoon. Harpoon.
Yep.
Yeah, Typhoon's the DC bad guy. It's Mayday and Harpoon, and in a dogfight that really utilizes Mayday's skills, which is she was always the driver. there's a actual plot by Scar, which is very reminiscent of Cobra, and there's like a subtle lead into it in the beginning. So like this is a good episode. This is a really solid episode of G.I. Joe Extreme. Totally. And I'm excited to get into it. So listeners, when you're out there on the internet, find me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at JoeOnJoePod, or send me an email to joeonjoepod@gmail.com. We've only got a few episodes left. It actually looks like we've got about I've got about 4 episodes left to slot in for listeners or for guests for Extreme. So if you want to be a guest on the show, shoot me a note and we'll get you all set up. Remember, all our guests do get access to the entire library of all the Extreme shows because, as we know, G.I. Joe Extreme is not available to buy or rent or watch in any capacity from official Hasbro. So you guys know what you have to do, right? You have to tweet at Hasbro. You have to tweet at G.I. Joe Official, and you have to Instagram them, and you have to send them the hashtag #ReleaseTheExtreme. Hashtag #ReleaseTheExtreme. We got to get this social media campaign with enough pressure on them to say, hey, there's people who actually want to see the Extreme stuff, because I think it's a very underrated corner of the G.I. Joe universe and an oft ignored one.
Yeah, it's a sad thing. Like, I actually tried to Google image search Extreme, and most of the picture quality is bad, but I did see what looked like 2 Blu-ray covers for the seasons, and I was like,
yeah,
I wish. This is gonna be fan art.
Either that's fan art, or because I know the ones you're talking about, I've seen them too. That's either fan art or those were like releases overseas that maybe from back in the day. So maybe there's a region issue. I don't know, but either way, I'd love to find out, and I'd love for them to figure it out, because this is a good looking. It's a good show with great writing, and right now the only way we can watch it does not look good at all, and the sound is terrible. So I'd love to see a clean up version, because I think a lot of people would appreciate it.
Yeah, it'd be great. I'd like to show my son this stuff and see his reaction. The video quality on what you sent me when I watched it wasn't too bad, but yeah, the audio needs a bit of love.
yeah, because we're watching it off of VHS copies from Appleton, Wisconsin. So whoever that brave hero from Appleton from 25 years ago, we salute you, brave hero from Appleton, whoever recorded this. If you're listening, oh my God, please get in touch with me. That would be amazing if we could find the guy who recorded G.I. Joe Extreme from Appleton, Wisconsin. Let's do this. All right. Well, listeners, if you're ready, get your videos ready if you have access to them, and get ready to hit play, because here we go. So again, this season there's no live action openings, which is always a little sad and disappointing. I don't know. Have you had a chance to look online and see any of the live action openings, Shane?
Not yet. The only one that I could find really was the live action Mayday one.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, okay, when I get some time, because with work and everything.
Here we go. Sabotage in the Sky, written by George Bloom. We're opening on a secret Scar communication center, which is shaped like a lizard, but no, that's the communication center.
Yeah, I loved how it was like, and it jumps right into the action. They're like, forget the iguana thing.
Yeah, the Joes, it's Stone and Freight, and they bust in with some tanks, and they're attacking the Scar Center. But the Scar Center, in a brilliant design move, it looks like like one of those roadside tourist attractions, like come see the giant lizard on Route 55, like that's amazing. That was so good.
And we see Still Raven here. When I first saw her, I was like, she's like Major Blood and the Baroness, a combination of the two.
Yeah. There's a lot of that. There's a lot of that.
More competent.
Yeah. I like the look of the soldiers this season. the support troops. I think they look great. They're using more of the soldiers than they are of the robotic assault troop. That lizard's amazing.
Oh, there goes.
And I think the soldiers look good. I think the red blue color scheme is a smart move to go back to that, like kind of lean into that, which they are with Steel Raven and the soldiers, because of that Cobra connection in your head.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Because I remember you talking about the first season, and they were like, you get, what was it, Rampage looked like War Machine and Hulk.
yeah,
And I think with this season, they wanted to make it more realistic.
yes, more military, absolutely, and that like an actual organization of terrorists, and that is what's happening here this whole season. They absolutely it looks less like a bunch of superheroes than it does.
Yeah,
It's military on military action, which is cool. So on the show, when they were attacking the giant lizard, which is great, Freight saw a crown logo, and that's all he saw on the computer before it blew up. So they're working with Metalhead to figure out who they were communicating with, because Scar was communicating with somebody and they couldn't tell. And so they identified it as an aviation company. And of course, they're going to send Mayday in to be the pilot. She's going to go undercover to be a pilot, much like they did with Metalhead, except it makes sense now because she's a pilot and there's aviation. And they sent Metalhead. Yeah. They sent in Metalhead a few episodes back to be the lead singer of a rock and roll band that had absolutely nothing to with the actual terror plot that was going on.
Well, no, I like how they're like, okay, we're gonna give you Harpoon as your partner, and I'm like, isn't he the water expert?
Yeah, the ocean guy. Hey, Joe's are land, sea, and air. Like you think they'd send Eagle Eye because I know he's a sharpshooter, but at least his name is Eagle. And this is fun. This episode's fun because it's Mayday infiltrating this aircraft company and trying to find who the sabotage, like who the spy is. And it's a nice little whodunit,
Yeah, it's like, and the scene here when she's showing off her piloting skills gave me like Scarlet vibes from Sunbow era, the very first episode.
Very first episode. Yeah, I agree. So what is your history with G.I. Joe? Like, how old were you when you got into it? Like, what era was that of G.I. Joe? Like, let's find out.
It was the Sunbow era. It was the Sunbow era. I was like 3 or 4. I can't remember the exact age. And I can't remember if it was the cartoon that came first or the figures. I just remember I loved the figures. I actually had the different, like the flat, you could post the little clips to the U.S. flag. I had that stand for them. I had a little book for them. They were all in alphabetical order.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that I actually had the USS flag when I was younger.
Oh, you did? You're the flag.
Yeah. Whoa. I had the flag. I beat the crap out of that when I was a kid.
Well, yeah, I mean, we've already established that you eat your Joes. So is your flag? Is it still around? Is it because?
No, sadly, I was. I grew up in Texas, and that was. Melted. I haven't been in Texas. Probably, yeah. It's like I haven't been back to Texas in almost 20 years now, so it's been.
So did you left when you guys moved? You left it behind? You saying?
I think I had 2 younger brothers. I think we just destroyed the crap out of it, sadly, not thinking about collecting anything or preserving anything.
I wasn't expecting that out of this episode. It would be labeled a very special episode of Joe on Joe. But I feel like this is the 80s sitcom where everything gets sad and serious and everyone leaves. Yeah. Everyone leaves depressed because you destroyed a USS flag.
I know.
So, welcome, listeners, to a very special episode, Joe on Joe Extreme with Shane Loggains.
Yeah, I just thought it was funny because they showed Harpoon as undercover, and his whole undercover outfit was a cowboy hat.
I had the exact same thought. It's exactly hilarious. He's still he's still got his vest on. He's got his weapons and a hat.
His oxygen tank on the back.
Oh my! He is still
a cowboy hat.
That is his oxygen tank. What? Oh man, I hate that. you couldn't have them draw them without an oxygen tank. Plus, also, have you ever tried sitting in a chair with a backpack? It's the worst. They do that all the time.
Yeah, and he's sitting in a car,
Yeah,
a sedan.
they do that all the
with an
time
arm.
in all iterations of GI Joe, because GI Joe always, a lot of the guys had backpacks. They always have them sitting in chairs, and they never have them take the backpack off. It's the
Well,
worst.
you got to remember, it's real American heroes, so they don't complain about having stuff on their backs.
That's true. That's true. But I would sit on a stool were I them. So this is
Yeah.
great. So they're driving. Mayday and Harpoon are driving, and they're getting chased like James Bond style by someone in a sports car, and they're being tracked. So we're not sure exactly who it is, but we know it's no good.
But yeah, and I love the
we
scene.
get
I'm like,
a gravity break, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be right back.
Mhm.
We're going into commercial. Listeners, I know what you need in your life. You need more podcasts, and you also love movies. So why not do a podcast that's about not one movie? It's about not two movies. It's about 3 movies and a meal. I'm talking the Movies and a Meal podcast. This show is great. It's brought to you by Keith, Brad, and Ben, and each week they bring a new movie to the table, which they all discuss as a group. And it's not, your highfalutin movies. It's What We Do in the Shadows, The Fantastic Four, Rise of the Silver Surfer, and Out of Sight. It's Bad Education, Ghost Rider, and A View to a Kill. It's X-Men Last Stand, Queen Sugar, The Mandalorian, and Major League 2. They are a lot of fun to listen to. You guys know Ben. It's our friend Ben Pensarga. He was a guest on Joe and Joe. In fact, Ben was the very first remote guest that I ever had on this podcast, so he's always got a special place in my heart. I'm really digging this. I just started listening to it last week. It is a lot of fun. They bring a guest in. The guest, I listened to their Heathers episode. They were joined by Kelly, and she went in depth on her favorite movie, which was Heathers, and it made me want to go watch Heathers to watch with them. I really dig it. So guys, find them out there at Movies and a Meal, Twitter, Instagram. Their website is moviesandameal.podbean.com. They put out 1 episode a week. Give them a listen, guys. Support them. Let them know Joe on Joe sent you. I don't think you're going to be disappointed. It is quite entertaining. And now back to the show. And we're back. I haven't had a gravity break in quite some time. I think maybe it's because half of these commercials have taken me by surprise because they were edited out of the cut. But it's good to see another gravity break. We haven't seen one in quite a while. Old school movie serial style. And they jump out of these cars in midair and they land in a pool. Of course, Harpoon finds the pool to land in. Well, that's why he's got his air tank on, Shane. So yeah. Falcon was your favorite figure, favorite toy. What else? What other ones did you have? Did you have a lot of the vehicles? Was it mostly the figure? I mean, you had the flags. I'm assuming you had everything.
Yeah, I had a bunch of the vehicles. I remember having Sky Striker, loving that. I mostly had the figures. Like I said, Falcon, Duke, and Flint were my main favorites, because those were what the guys I saw growing up looked like.
Oh yeah,
and I'm like, wow.
What branch was your father was in the military, right? That's what you said?
He's retired Air Force.
Air Force.
He served proudly for 24 years. So
excellent. Proudly for 24 years, and he was in at 25 because 1 year he just felt bad. That's awesome. Well, thank him for his service. That's great.
Okay.
And you guys were in Germany?
Yep.
4 years?
Yep.
How was that?
It was cloudy and rainy most of the time. And because of the area that we lived in, it was mostly U.S. military bases. And most of the people spoke English. We actually had to travel like 3 to 4 hours away to meet actual Germans who didn't speak English. They spoke fluent German. So that was.
And how old were you when you were living in Germany?
I was 13 to 17.
Oh, okay. Yeah, those are pretty formative years.
Mm-hmm.
Do you speak German fluently?
No, I know some of the bad words. I tried to learn, but having a southern draw and a German accent. Yeah, it's like having a southern draw and a German. trying to go with German did not mix at all. It was like Sprechen Sie Deutsch, y'all.
Oh, yeah. In that movie that Shane or that Guy Ritchie movie just came out, the Gentleman. They have they're in England, and it's Matthew McConaughey, and he's got that Texas drawl. And very quickly in the movie, they just established, nope, he was born American, went to school in England, so he's able to be in tight with these English guys and not even have to worry about doing any kind of accent. So on the show, someone is stealing the airplane, and so Mayday realizes that's what Scar's plan has been, that they were stealing this experimental plane. Now, did like your dad do any type of test pilot stuff, or was he like?
No, he was he did sheet metal. He repaired planes and everything. He served in Desert Shield, Desert Storm, and a couple days in the Bosnian Air War when we were in Europe.
Oh wow!
So that was a big thing when we were over there because we were giving support.
Well, your father did what my grandfather did in World War II. That's what my grandfather did. Yeah, he repaired planes. He was based out of South America, and they would bring in all the beat up planes, I guess, from the Western Theater, and they would repair them. My grandpa was an airplane mechanic, so that's great.
Oh, nice.
Did you ever want to go into the military yourself?
I did, but sadly, I have 2 bad knees and a bad back that prevent me from joining. So.
Yeah. That's knees and backs those are the 2 things that will cripple the biggest man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's my knees. They actually said in my medical records cannot march for long periods of time with excess weight on his back.
Oh no!
I was like, well, that's basic training and boot camp, so I can't do that.
The plane was what Scar was after.
All right, so they just confirmed that the plane was what Scar was after. Which is funny because that's the only thing in the episode, you know, like just now 13 minutes into it, they just figured it out. Like,
yeah, I was just like, okay, it's taking the heroes a little long to figure out the plan. Secret plane, maybe we should watch it a little bit more.
Yeah. Wait a minute, you're the biggest profile project on your aeronautics schedule is a secret plane. It's probably they're probably interested in something else entirely. I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Yeah.
It's the pin on the manager's desk. That's what they want.
yeah, completely. I'm sure it's something else.
I saw this. I was like, oh wow, it's the Scar flight attendants here to serve coffee.
Well, what's fun is this plane, which I guess the assumption for me was always that like the experimental plane is like a military, like a military kind of plane, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you're right. The interior absolutely looks like a passenger plane. So
because like growing up in the military, they'd actually let us go onto some of the cargo planes and stuff for air shows, and you're like, that's not what the interior of a military plane looks like.
Yeah, they don't look like that. I agree. I've been on them too. They don't look like that. That's hilarious though. But you know what? Listen, in the future, there might be a section of the plane that they needed cordoned off for VIPs and stuff. So Mayday, once again, because she's insane, is about to take matters in their own hand. They're in a dogfight. Mayday's in a jet, and she just jumps out of the jet and is going to land on the plane from above with seemingly no parachute. We're going to another gravity break. We'll be right back. Today's Filecard Feature is on the Road Bullet Assault Cycle. The Road Bullet Assault Cycle was first released boxed in U.S. toy stores in 1995. It featured a firing missile and an opening canopy. This thing looks something like it's more out of Tron than it is out of G.I. Joe, and I like it a lot. It does have this kind of awkward missile, but that's standard for these figures from the Extreme line because they all came with some type of auto-firing missile launcher thing. So this one is no different. It's got like what would be, I would describe it as like a periscope coming out of an otherwise very sleek motorcycle. It's hard to tell whether the guy would lean back, like recline like a normal motorcycle, or if he would be laying on his stomach more like a light cycle. When you look at the instructions, it looks like you do lean him back. So like a traditional motorcycle. But it does have two big fat wheels, kind of reminiscent of a light cycle from Tron. And it is that gray-greenish color scheme that most of the figures had at the time. It also has a antenna that sticks out the back. I like it. I kind of like it. It looks futuristic enough to work for me, but also they finally gave something a canopy that needed it. Some type of protection for the driver of one of these G.I. Joe vehicles. Half the time they're exposed and they should be getting hit in the face. This gives you a nice canopy so your extreme team members do not get hit in the face with a laser. So I like it. Road Bullet, Assault Cycle, we salute you. And what was really wild about Mayday's jump was that when they in a plane that was traveling, like, imagine what a jet plane travels like, guys, with all that wind shear. The cockpit, the canopy opened up and just stayed open. It didn't fly off. Yeah, it didn't fly off. It didn't cause the plane to flip out wildly. It just opened like a Sky Striker canopy and just stayed open as she gently climbed out the side of it. That was great. It was hilarious.
Yeah.
I was wondering.
Yeah, it's like
I was wondered on the shows, whenever they use helicopters to get in or out in these action scenes, because you're in and out in air, right? It's something that no normal humans could ever do. But like whenever they catch someone in a helicopter, I'm like, no, they would just be chopped up, or if they had to eject out of a helicopter, they would probably die.
No, see, ejecting from a helicopter is you just jump out.
Yeah,
you don't have the jet or anything.
Right,
you just jump.
So Harpoon, Harpoon showed up and caught up with Lieutenant Stone, is filling them in on what Mayday's hijinks are. This is really a great Mayday specific episode. I like it.
Yeah, I like the cycle that Harpoon came on. I was like, if they didn't make a toy of that, they should have. That would have been an awesome toy to see.
Well, let's see. Did they? They did. That is called the road.
Awesome.
That is called the Road Bullet. And it's got that sweet, sweet smash technology.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Yeah, they did 6 vehicles for this line. They did the Bone Splitter, which is like a 4-wheel car. It looks kind of pretty cool. They did the Sand Striker, which is like an assault tank that looks okay, a little too techy for me. The Sky Stalker jet looks great. And then they did 2 battle platforms. They did the Spitfire and the Detonator, and they don't excite me. They're just battle platforms. The Spitfire is kind of neat. It's got a feature where I think they both have features where they you can blow, like the figure gets blown off of it. And then they did the Road Bullet. So I'd say like 3 of the 6 they did look really cool, and the other ones look kind of okay.
Yeah, I like how right here, big reveal of who the bad guy is. And
yes.
At first, I was like, I thought it was like the training co-pilot she had when I first saw it, and then it's Nelson the accountant. When I realized that, I just started laughing because I was like, you didn't see this guy at all in the entire episode, really, and he's the big bad.
Yeah, but it's a great dodge though, because they you're used to typically I think it's a little more straightforward that it's obvious that it's the other guy, but it's not. I love that they did that because that means the other guy is just an a-hole.
Yeah.
Which is awesome because sometimes you're just dealing with an a-hole, not everyone is great. And this guy just happens to be a jerk, but he's not a traitor, which is awesome.
Yeah. And then he gets shot, and I'm like, he didn't look like he was unconscious. He looks like he was actually killed.
Yeah. Yeah. So they shot him and he collapsed. So now this the experimental plane is it's nosediving, and Mayday has to pull a has to pull an airplane and rescue the jet before it crashes.
Mhm. But I'm like, really? That he, like I said, he looked dead. Kind of like the whole
Mm-hmm.
original movie when they were supposed to kill Duke, but they decided not to.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you heard it. It was on the audio for this Extreme episode. It's the only crossover between Real American Hero and Extreme. Doc called in and said, Duke's gonna be okay.
Yep.
You know, so Shane, on my show, I love to ask my guests if they could be a member of the Joe or Cobra team, or Claw, or Scar, or G.I. Joe Extreme team. What would you be? What would your specialty be? And what would your code name be?
I've been trying to think about this. It's like I go G.I. Joe because growing up around the military, I loved it as a kid. Small arms, I would like pretty much just basic hand-to-hand weapons are what I would like to be specialized in. And code name, I'm like, this is what's been like making my head scratch. I'm like, what would be the code name? But I'm like, I don't know, because I love to draw too, and I'm like, if like I have an Instagram, and if you look it up, it actually is most of my drawings that I've done. Little shout out there it's Shane Loggains on Instagram. Just all my drawings.
Yeah,
that I've done.
Spell that for listeners.
Shane Shane. Loggains is Loggains.
Awesome.
And it's what I like to draw, but I'm like, the military doesn't really have a career field with artists, so I really don't know what my code name would be. So I was hoping you'd be able to help me out with that.
So you'd be the G.I. Joe sketch artist?
Yeah.
Fabulous. You'd be like you're a battlefield painter, like you in the spirit of Garrido. You'd be illustrating the action, memorializing it for all time. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
So your name would be, I got it, your paintbrush.
Paintbrush, okay.
Yeah. Do you like that? Is that okay?
Yeah, I like that. That's awesome.
Yeah. I think that totally sounds like a G.I. Joe guy. Your paintbrush.
Yeah.
Your paintbrush. You're the G.I. Joe artist. I love it.
Yeah, one hand I got a paintbrush, the other one I got a rifle taking out Cobra.
Wait,
hold on, I need to paint this real quick.
Yeah. That paintbrush, that's made out of C4. Oh, it's an explosive paintbrush.
Yeah,
You've got explosive paintbrushes. No, you're fully equipped. You're fully equipped. So while we were introducing paintbrush to the world, the Joes resolved the issue. Mayday landed the plane safely, and everyone had a good laugh, and it was all over. And it's a very cool one and done episode. Real quick before we go, let me formally and officially welcome Paintbrush to the Joe on Joe team. Welcome, Paintbrush, to Joe on Joe Extreme.
Thank you. I'm honored, and I love that you've welcomed me the team there, Joe.
Awesome. So it's a fun one and done episode. Very much would be in good company in any of the Sunbow stuff.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's like, I loved the Sunbow when I was a kid. I even liked Deke a little bit when I was younger.
Mm-hmm. So were you more of a animated guy, or did you get into the comics, or were you more of a toy guy?
At first I was a toy guy. I loved the cartoons. I have like one or two issues of the comics. I remember the one that sticks out in my mind was Cobra was trying to move Dr. Mindbender's frozen body so they could safely wake him up, and it accidentally falls over and he wakes up that way. And, like, he's watching TV because he's been in hyper cryo sleep for a while, and he's like, the funniest thing I can remember is like, what did Michael Jackson do to his skin? That stuck out. It's like, I haven't read it in like 20 years, but still, that stuck out in my head. I'm like, that's pretty funny. That would be something that Dr. Mindbender would say.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Well, Shane, it's been a real pleasure having you on the show today. What any final thoughts on this episode?
Well, it's a fun episode. It's like, this is the first episode I'm going to consciously remember watching, and I like that it was a Mayday-centric episode, giving her the spotlight, not just anybody else. They were more secondary characters, and I just like that, especially like watching old spy tropes and action movie stuff in this just brought a smile to my face while I was watching it.
Love it, love it. I agree. I agree with every sentiment you just said. It's a great, fun, specific, focused episode. I'm all about it, guys. So, listeners, I hope you have hashtagged Release the Extreme so that you too can enjoy what this episode looks like, because I don't think our descriptions will do it justice. It is a lot of fun. Shane Loggains, you are a lot of fun. Paintbrush, thank you for being a guest on Joe on Joe.
Well, thank you for having me on here. I would really appreciate this. Thank you.
No, man, it's my pleasure. And now you, Joe, and Joeing is half the battle. Extreme!
Extreme!